Hi, welcome to this video. My name's Freya and I have a little yoga business called Essential Yoga with Freya. A question that I get asked a lot as a yoga teacher is what to expect from your first yoga class. So I've put together a series of videos to help guide you through what to expect so that the idea of going to your first in-person yoga class isn't so daunting. I've done a video that explains what you might need to bring and the structure of a yoga class, so I will link that here and I'll pop it in the description below. There'll be 5 videos in the series where we'll do the pranayama breathing, 3 asana videos from the different sections in a yoga class, and then a meditation video. And then after I've done each of those each week, I'll pop them all together so you can practice them all together or you can practice each separately. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the little series. If you have any questions about what to expect from your first yoga class or any other yoga questions in general, then just pop a comment below and I will endeavour to answer them. Enjoy! So this is the beginning section of the asana practice. So we'll just move gently, connecting into the body and starting to ease the body out and do some gentle stretches. So when you're ready, we're lying on the mat. So lying on your back with your legs stretched out away from you. So you can always have a blanket resting underneath the head and just lying in the most comfortable way for you. Just take a moment, letting the eyes gently close. Breathing through the nose as best as you can. Gently trying to deepen the inhale and lengthen the exhale. So just moving gently with your next inhale, we're going to draw the right knee in, clasping around the right knee and hugging that right thigh down towards you. Now any discomfort in the lower back, you can always have the left knee bent, foot on the mat, or if it feels okay, then just keeping that left leg stretched away. So this pose is called Asana. It translates as the wind releasing pose. So it's a good one to do in the morning or if you're feeling a little bit bloated. It's another thing to say as well. People are often a little bit nervous about farting in yoga classes. It happens and it's fine. It's just one of the things that the body does and it's okay. So don't be embarrassed if it happens. It's perfectly natural. Everyone's done it at some point, or you're all good. Especially if you're doing this pose. It's what it's designed to do. So just thinking about hugging that thigh down towards the body. Then we're going to move this into a bit of a hamstring stretch. So you're going to interlace the fingers around the back of the thigh. Send that foot up towards the ceiling. Great. So we're trying to straighten through the leg. But you don't want it dead straight, so not locking the knee out. Have a little micro bend in the knee. Try and flex the foot. So you're drawing the toes towards you, pushing the heel away. So this is a flexed foot. A pointed foot would be pointing the toes away. So flexing the foot, drawing the toes towards you. Hands can stay where they are, or you can slide the hands up the leg. Now, if you like, some people find it uncomfortable trying to reach for the leg. Or maybe just due to body proportions, you find it difficult to reach for the leg. So you can either take the strap around the back of the leg, or you can take your strap around the sole of the foot, using that strap in either hand to draw the leg towards you. So in a yoga class, don't ever worry about modifying yourself. So just because your yoga teacher hasn't said use your strap, if you know that it would be more comfortable for you to use a strap, then just go ahead and use the strap. If your yoga teacher has a different idea about that, then they'll let you know, and they'll hopefully say it in the nicest possible way. But as a general rule, if you know that there are modifications that are better for you, then go ahead and use those modifications. You know your body better than anybody else, and you know how something feels. So if you're not sure if you're doing the stretch right, just ask the yoga teacher where you should feel the stretch. So for instance, for this stretch, you want to feel it all the way down the back of the leg. We're working on the hamstrings. However, if we did something, say, with a deep bend in the knee, but still drawing that foot in and trying to open out through the knee, then we'd be trying to get into the hips and more of the belly of the muscle rather than right the way down the hamstring. So ask your yoga teacher where you want to feel the stretch. Great. So then we're going to bend that knee, release the strap if you're using a strap, or release the hands. Maybe give the knee another little hug in, and then stretch that leg away. We're then going to go on to the other side. So draw the left knee in, clasp around that left knee and hug the left thigh down towards you. Again, bend the opposite leg if that's better, or keep it straightened away. You can always also use the strap here as well. I have some students where they find it more comfortable to have the strap just around the back of the thigh underneath the knee and using the strap to draw the leg in rather than clasping around the knee to draw in. So again, modify as you need to. Lovely. Then we're going to send that foot up towards the ceiling, either fingers interlaced around the back of the thigh or taking the strap around the sole of the foot. If the fingers are interlaced around the back of the thigh, you can always slide the hands up the leg, drawing that leg a little closer in. I'm just going to move my microphone pack because I'm lying on it and that is not very comfortable. And as you're doing poses like this, think about relaxing into the rest of the body. So we're wanting that stretch down the back of the leg, but that doesn't mean the rest of the body wants to be holding tension. So try having a little bend in the elbows, snuggle the shoulder blades down towards the mat. Notice what's going on with the neck. Try tucking the chin in slightly so the back of the neck is nice and long. This is where having a little folded blanket underneath the head can help because it just draws the chin in slightly. Lovely. Then we're going to bend the knee, release the strap if you've got the strap, give the knee another little hug in. Lovely. And then stretch that leg away from you, right leg stretched away, and just take a moment checking in and noticing how the lower body feels. Wonderful. We're then going to bend both knees, have the feet on the mat. We're going to go into a gentle supine twist, so a lying twist. So have the knees together, ankles together, take the arms out at shoulder height. A good variation on this, if the class is busy and you find you're holding hands with the person next to you when you stretch the arms out, or like me, I've got a cabinet next to me, you can always bend the elbows. So bending at the elbows, palms facing up towards the ceiling can be a good modification for this one. It can also sometimes feel quite nice because it helps to open up through the chest. So knees together, ankles together, feet on the mat. You're just going to press into the feet, shift the hips slightly to the right, and then let the knees roll down to the left, letting the right foot lift off the mat. So coming into a twist, trying to keep the knees together as much as you can. The right foot lifts off the mat. The gaze can either be up towards the ceiling, or you can turn and look over that right shoulder. Trying to keep the right shoulder down on the mat. So if you find it's lifted, just draw the knees back up a little. Finding a twist right the way through the spine. Right, we'll take one more breath here. And we'll inhale, draw the knees back to center. Take a moment just to rearrange, give the hips a little wriggle, move the feet about. And then we'll go on the other side. So press into the feet, shift the hips slightly to the left, and then let the knees roll down to the right. So you're letting that right foot lift off the mat. Right foot, left foot lift off the mat. I always get my rights and lefts the wrong way around. We're going to keep the gaze either up towards the ceiling or turning and looking over that left shoulder. Notice where the breath has moved to in the body. In poses where we're holding, sometimes the mind can wander quite a lot. You can start making lists, wondering what you're having for tea. If you find this happening, don't worry, just acknowledge it. And then see if you can bring the awareness to the breath and the sensation of the breath in the body. And the sensation of the pose in the body. So don't go beating yourself up because the mind has wandered. Like I say, it's very natural. But just see if you can come back to the present moment, to the pose and to the breath. We'll take one more breath here. And then inhale to draw the knees back to center. Again, take a moment, rearrange. Have a little wriggle. So if you do have something underneath the head, I'd recommend just removing that for this pose. We're going to go into a bridge. So this should be fairly familiar to most people. For this pose, we have the feet hip distance apart, heels up as close to the body as is comfortable. Some of you might find it helpful if you do have a yoga brick. You can squeeze the yoga brick between the knees, and that just helps keep the legs in line so they don't roll in or out. So if you like having that yoga brick between the knees, so squeezing the thighs together to keep that brick in place, hands are down by the sides, as I say, heels are up towards the body. Some people might find they can reach the heels. I've got really short arms, so I can very rarely reach my heels comfortably. So don't worry if you can't reach the heels, that is not a requirement. But just have the arms down by the sides, palms facing down. Shoulder blades snuggling down onto the mat, chin slightly tucked in. So with your inhale, we'll just start with 3 pelvic tilts. So your inhale, you're pressing the back of the waist into the mat. So imagine you're drawing that belly button down towards the spine. You'll feel the tailbone just lift slightly off the mat. Then with your exhale, we're going to tilt the pelvis in the opposite direction. So you're going to roll through neutral, then arch the lower back up off the mat just a little bit. I'm exaggerating here, so it only needs to go a little bit. So the tailbone is going down towards the mat. So we'll do that again. Inhale, press the back of the waist into the mat. So the tailbone lifts slightly off the mat, belly button going down towards the spine. Then your exhale, rolling through neutral, arching the lower back, tilting the tailbone down to the mat. We'll do that once more. So inhaling, press the lower back into the mat. And then exhaling, arching the lower back just a little way off the mat. Wonderful. So how we start our bridge pose is to inhale, So press the lower back into the mat, the back of the waist presses into the mat, the tailbone lifts slightly off the mat, and then you press into the feet, lifting the hips up towards the ceiling. So we do this so that we've got that posterior tilt to our pelvis. So the pelvis is like tilted just slightly back, and that will help you engage your glutes, lift into bridge, sending the hips up towards the ceiling. Then as you exhale, nice and slowly rolling down through the spine. And when you reach the mat, coming back into that anterior tilt of the pelvis. So just slightly lifting the lower back off the mat. And that should bring you back into a more neutral kind of state. I'm just going to remove the block, but continue with the block if you like. So we'll do that again. Arms down by the sides. With your inhale, tilt the pelvis, press the back of the waist into the mat. Push into the feet evenly, lifting the hips up towards the ceiling. Wonderful. So just let the breath flow here. And then we'll exhale, rolling back down. Lovely. So this time, as you inhale, tilt the pelvis, press into the feet, rolling up. And we're going to float the arms up and overhead. I've got a wall behind me, so mine can't go too far, but they can come to resting on the floor behind you. Then we're going to keep the hips lifted as you exhale and float the arms back down by the sides. Interlace the fingers. See if you can shuffle a little higher onto the shoulders. Keep pressing into the feet. Lift the hips a little higher. Squeeze the glutes. Then releasing the hands. Exhaling, rolling down, bringing the hips back down onto the mat. Wonderful. So that is a bridge pose. We'll draw the knees in, give the knees a little hug in, give the spine a little bit of a rock. So from here we'll come up to sitting. So you have a few options. You can roll onto one side and press yourself up, or you can just rock yourself up to sitting, whatever's best for you. If you have low blood pressure, you might find rocking yourself up makes you a little bit dizzy. So rolling onto one side is a little bit better, but just find what works best for you. So then from here, we're going to come to Dandasana, which is our seated pose with our legs stretched out in front. Now sitting in Dandasana, it can help. Sorry, got the hiccups. It can help to sit on the edge of a block or a blanket. So I always sit on the edge of a blanket. It just helps tilt the pelvis so you can sit up nice and tall. Makes it a little bit more comfortable for sitting up tall. So depending on your pelvis, some people might find that sitting on a block or a blanket makes no difference. So just have a little play around, see what works best for you. If you are using a block rather than a blanket, you are sitting right onto the edge. So have your sit bones right on the edge of that block. So we're not sitting on the block, we're sitting to the edge of the block. And you'll find that when you sit towards the edge of the block, it just tilts the pelvis and starts that forward motion, which is what we're going into. So sitting up nice and tall, have a little bend in the knees. Again, something that I often find is people think they have to have their legs dead straight. Actually, having a little bend in the knees is very helpful because it just releases slightly into that superficial back plane of the body, which is the muscles all the way up the back of our body. It just gives that little release so that as you fold forward, you work more into the belly of the muscle rather than just the ends of the muscle. And it's that belly of the muscle where we start to actually create more flexibility. So having a little bend in the knees is extremely helpful. I always have a little bend in my knees when I come into forward folds because I know I have tight hamstrings, and so dead straight legs doesn't work for me. I also have hypermobility, so if I have dead straight legs, it actually causes stress on my joints, which is not good. So a lot of you might find that you've been drawn towards yoga because you do have hypermobility, which is where your joints move beyond the natural range of motion. We'll talk about that another time. But if you do know you have hypermobility, then just be conscious that whenever we go into any sort of stretch, protect your joints. So having those little micro bends in the elbows, in the knees, does help to engage the muscles and protect the joints rather than just relying on that range of movement that you naturally have. Anyway, I'm digressing. We're coming into a forward fold. So you can have your hands wherever's best they can be. Even if you're just reaching forward and your hands come to the mat near the knees, that is still getting a lovely stretch. As long as you can feel it up the backs of the legs, you're doing great. There's no need to reach for the feet if that's not best for you. Find where's best. You can use the strap as well. So the strap can go around the soles of the feet, taking the strap in either hand and walking the hands down the strap just until you can feel that good stretch. Something to be conscious of is trying to have a bend in the elbows, drawing the shoulders down away from the ears. So this just make sure we're not doing this and rounding the upper back in order just to reach the feet. And you'll find you get a good stretch into the backs of the legs. You can find your mid and lower back working a little. And you'll find with this pose as well, you will probably progress quite quickly. So stick with it. Practice it as often as you can. Maybe even take photos of yourself and be amazed at your progression as you go from feeling like this is the tightest stretch to feeling like this is the tightest stretch. That's a wonderful thing about yoga, is seeing what your body is capable of that you didn't think it was capable of. Lovely. So we'll just take one more breath here. And then we'll walk the hands back up towards you. Give the shoulders a little roll back and give the wrists a little circle. Moving the strap out of the way, moving the block out of the way. And we're going to spin the feet round and come to tabletop position. So we want the wrists underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. If you've got any discomfort in the knees, you can just double the mat over slightly, or you can have your blanket underneath the knees. It's always nice to have some extra padding for the knees. So again, as I say, hypermobile people, just have that mini bend in the elbows so you're not locking the elbows out. And then we're going to go into cat-cow. So with your inhale, you're lifting the chest, sending the belly down towards the mat. And with your exhale, rounding the back, belly button up towards the spine. So your inhale, looking up, sending the chest through between the arms, belly towards the mat. Exhale, rounding, gazing between the knees, draw the belly button up towards the spine, round the back. So just flow with your breath in this one. Don't worry about how fast or slow I'm going. If you're in class practicing this, don't worry how fast or slow the people next to you are going. We all have slightly different breathing rhythms, so just move at your pace. The inhale looks up and the exhale rounds. Think of it like that wave through the spine. So starting from the tailbone, working up through the lower back, middle back, upper back, all the way up into the neck. And then from the neck, upper back, middle back, lower back, all the way to the tailbone. We'll just practice one more. Lovely. Then you're just going to sit back onto the heels, have a little stretch back, either in ancestral worship with the hands stretched out in front, or bring the hands in, forehead can rest on the fists, or you can have the hands down either side of you, forehead resting on the mat. coming into child's pose. So just connecting to that breath. Maybe notice the belly rising and falling against the thighs. Great. Then popping the hands down onto the mat, rolling up through the spine. Giving the shoulders a little roll back. Great. So this brings us to the end of this little section. So next Monday, the next bit of this series will be out where we'll do some standing poses. So make sure you hit the little subscribe button and the little bell so that you know when that's coming out. But it'll come out Monday at 5 o'clock. And then eventually I will pop these all together for you so you can go right the way through the practice without interruption. But I hope you enjoyed that little bit and hopefully see you again next week. Om Shanti.